Have you ever noticed how that voice in your head can either be your biggest supporter or your biggest critic? Today, we're diving into the role of self-talk and how the questions that you ask yourself in those challenging moments can completely change your experience. Whether you're dealing with setbacks at work, struggling with personal goals, or facing unexpected challenges, the way that you talk to yourself matters more than you might think. So in this section, we're going to talk about self-talk and the role that it has or that it can have, right, on both our mental and also our emotional well-being. And so what's self-talk, you might be asking? Well, self-talk is that internal dialogue, right? It's that dialogue that's happening continuously in our minds, right? And so this self-talk, right, it can be either positive or it can be negative, right? So it can either be positive or it can be negative, right? It can be constructive or it can be destructive. And really, the choice is ours in terms of how we're talking to ourselves. And a lot of times this can be conscious or it can be unconscious. We can be totally aware of what these words are, what this dialogue is that's going on in our head, the questions that are going on, or we can be completely unaware to the point where it's just like running on autopilot and we're not even, we're like, where did these thoughts come from, right? But the thing is, these thoughts, right? These questions that we're asking ourselves, these things that we're saying, they can be influencing our behavior. They can be influencing the results that we're seeing. It can be influencing how we're feeling. And so at the end of the day, there's a cycle to this, okay? At the end of the day, there's a cycle to this self-talk, right? And it's almost like our thoughts, right? So it all starts with our thoughts, right? And so the thoughts, depending on the thoughts that we have, they create the feelings and how we feel about certain things. And these feelings shape our beliefs. And then the beliefs, right? These beliefs determine our actions, the actions that we take. And then the actions that we take, in turn, lead to the results, which in turn influence our thoughts again, right? Because based on the results that we're getting, it's going to influence the thoughts that we have about what's happening in our world, what's happening in our reality. So the thoughts create the feelings shape the beliefs, and then the beliefs determine the actions, and then the actions lead to the results, which in turn go back to the influence of thoughts again. One of the most important things is asking the right questions. Okay? Asking the right questions. Because depending on the questions that we ask ourselves, this can have a major influence on our thoughts, on our emotions, the actions that we take, right? Our beliefs. We just went through the cycle, right? So the questions that we ask ourselves, they can start to affect our thoughts. They can start to affect our feelings, right? They can affect the beliefs that we have, which in turn can affect the actions that we get, right? And the results that it leads to. Well, there's two types of questions that we can ask ourselves. So there's either resourceful questions or there's unresourceful questions. So there's either questions that help us or there's questions that don't. So what are some examples of resourceful questions? Of some resourceful internal dialogue when specific things are happening in our life? How can I make this better? How can I appreciate this more? How can I turn this situation into appreciation or gratitude? Or maybe, what's the lesson here? What's the lesson to learn here? Or what can I learn from this experience? Or how can I use this experience to grow? Or who can I ask for help or guidance? Or what strengths do I possess that can help me to handle this situation better? Or how can I make this experience more fun and enjoyable? Or what steps can I take right now to make more progress? Or what am I grateful for right now? So those are all examples of possible questions that are resourceful or that are helpful. So depending on the situation that's happening in life that you're confronted with, there's going to be some sort of internal dialogue that happens, right? Each person has a primary question in which they will ask themselves, depending on the circumstance that occurs. And it's just a matter of, is what we're saying to ourselves, is what we're asking ourselves, is it something that's resourceful, that's going to help us, that's going to help us find a solution that supports us, that moves us forward? Or is it something that's going to be unresourceful, right? Something that's going to move us backwards, or that's going to make us feel guilty about ourselves, or that's going to make us feel bad about ourselves, or that's going to make us feel negative. What are some examples of unresourceful questions? Just to give you some examples of some just to give you some examples of some unresourceful questions, or things that might not be as helpful, right? It might be like when a certain situation happens, right? In your daily life, maybe something, didn't turn out the right way. You might be like, maybe examples might be, why is this happening to me? What's wrong with this? Why bother? Why bother if it never works out? Or what's the point of trying? What if I make it worse? What if I'm not good enough? Why can't things ever be easy? So these are all questions, right? These are all examples of disempowering internal dialogue, disempowering self talk, depending on the circumstance or situation that we're in or that we're dealing with. And so we have a choice at the end of the day in terms of what our internal dialogue is, what our internal self talk is, whether it's going to be empowering or disempowering, whether it's going to support us or it's not going to support us. But it all starts with awareness in terms of being aware that this is actually happening. I'm going to go ahead and lead you through an exercise right now where we're going to go ahead and identify some of the self talk that might be happening. I'm just going to give a wide variety of examples. So maybe one example might be maybe you're having a performance review at work. And so you receive a performance review, right? And it's mostly positive, but it includes some constructive criticism about the areas that maybe you need some improvement on, right? And so that's the scenario. And the question is, what happens after that? When you receive that performance review that's mostly positive, but then you get some criticism, right? You get some criticism. So put yourself in that scenario. So what are some examples of some self-talk that might be happening? Some examples might be, maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Or why can't I ever do anything right? Or maybe another example might be when it comes to fitness, right? When it comes to exercising, working out. Maybe maybe you've been working out and doing regular exercise and regular workouts for an entire month, but you just found that maybe you haven't quite lost the weight that you hoped for. So some examples of maybe some disempowering negative self-talk. They might be like, I'll never get in shape, right? It's like, what am I doing wrong? What's the point of doing all this work, all this exercise, if I'm not even getting results, right? So that's example. That's an example of the words, right? The thoughts that are going through, that can potentially be going through. Maybe something relating to financial, right? It's like maybe there's like an unexpected car repair that occurs, right? And then it taps into your savings. So if that happens, right? What thoughts go through your head, right? What thoughts go through your head? If maybe there's an unexpected car repair, and it just significantly depletes your savings. Just take a moment right now and just observe what thoughts go through your head. Just jot that down. Just observe it. Is it empowering? Or is it disempowering? Or another example might be Maybe you're out at a networking event, or you're hanging out with friends, or a group of people, right? And you're at a social gathering, and then maybe you start to feel left out, right? You notice everyone around you's having a good time, but for some reason, like you're kind of left out a little bit. Just notice, what are the thoughts? What thoughts go through your head right now? What thoughts go through your head? Are they empowering, or are they disempowering? Just pay attention to that. What is it? What are your thoughts saying? So maybe you're learning a new skill. So you're trying to learn a new skill set that maybe you're not necessarily that familiar with. But the process is like super challenging because it's just not, you're not getting it, right? So what's going on in your head right now? What's the self-talk that's happening? Again, is it empowering or disempowering? Or what about when it comes to health, right? Maybe the scenario is you get sick, and maybe you have to miss, because maybe you get sick, and as a result, right, you have to miss, you miss a bunch of like commitments, either personal or professional. What goes through your head? What's the self-talk that happens? Is it something that's empowering or something that's not? Now, an example of something that's not is I get, it's like maybe I always get sick at the worst times, right? Or, I'm so unreliable. Those are examples of negative self-talk. So is it that? Or are you saying something empowering to yourself? We're going to look at some of the things that you wrote down, right? So some of the thoughts, right? Some of the thoughts that you might have written down for those specific scenarios. And I want you to go ahead and see, right? I want you to go ahead and see how you can go ahead and reframe those thoughts, to reframe those questions into something that's more constructive, into something that's more helpful, that can support you, right? Because it all starts with the self-talk, and it all starts with the question that we ask ourselves when we're in these situations, or when specific things happen to us. So depending on what you wrote down, see if you can go ahead and shift it. See if you can go ahead and reframe it. So go ahead and reframe, go through that list and see, go ahead and reframe each and every one of those. Anything that might be unconstructive, go ahead and reframe it to make it something that's constructive, that supports you. What statement can you make to make it so that, depending on the situation that you're in, it's going to be able to support you? It's going to be able to support you to get a result that will move you forward towards your goals, towards your intention, towards better health, towards more joy, towards more happiness, more peace, more fulfillment. What question can you ask yourself? What can you say about yourself? What can you say about the situation that will support you? I hope you can see the power of self-talk, and the power in which how we communicate to ourselves can impact what we experience in life, which leads us into the homework assignment. So for the homework assignment, you're going to go ahead and keep a journal and document any thoughts, right? Any negative self-talk, or any unresourceful questions that you might be asking yourself or saying to yourself during the day that you might be aware of. And so if you can catch yourself, when you catch yourself, just jot it down. Whether it's something negative, maybe it's an unresourceful question, or maybe it's a resourceful question. Just go ahead and jot that down, and jot down the scenario. And this it might take some, conscious awareness, and just kind of focusing, like, it's like you catch yourself, right? But just do that. See if you can. And if it's something that might not be that resourceful, maybe something that's negative, just see, jot it down. And then what is a more resourceful question that you can ask yourself? How can you reframe it? How can you reframe it so that it gets you a different result? So that it makes you feel a different way that's more helpful for you. So as we wrap up today, I hope that each and every one of you have a more clear understanding, have a more clear awareness of the power of asking right questions, of asking empowering questions, of using empowering thoughts to be able to shape what it is that we get in our life, how we feel about certain things. And once you can start to shift the internal dialogue, just watch. Just watch how your life begins to change. The power to shift your experience starts with shifting your internal dialogue. This week, I challenge you to catch yourself in those moments when life throws you a curveball. What questions are you asking? What are you saying to yourself? By the way, this is a part of a larger series that I'm putting together. If you want access to the rest of these modules and my complete library of resources, I'm currently building something special for you. You can get on the wait list and be the first to know about it when it's ready. Just head on over to the website and I'll have the link below in the show notes. Remember, you have a choice in every moment. Start paying attention to that inner voice and watch how your life begins to change from the inside out.